If many modern NASCAR fans heard the term NASCAR dad, you'd probably think of the recent baby boom in the garage area over the past decade or so. Or maybe you'd think of famous fathers in the sport like Dale Earnhardt or Richard Petty. But in reality, it really doesn't have much to do with what many or most would think. To understand what this phrase is, we have to go back to 2003, to the origin of the phrase. At this time, both the sport and the culture was in a much different place. The sport itself had a different point system, different cars, and much more that was different. It was a fad that had separated itself ahead of all other sports in the country in terms of popularity except the NFL. The culture was turning into a rapidly shifting one. In the post-9/11 era, at the dawn of the age of the internet, the world as most in the generations of millennials and Gen Z know of today was morphing into place. With the invasion of Iraq in 2003 and the patriotic resurgence of a post-9/11 unity, NASCAR had become a perfect fit in the early 2000s pop culture. Drivers like Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon were just as common and popularly known names as guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And the sport was still continuing a tradition it had upheld since its inception, attracting the everyman. And with an upcoming presidential election in 2004, NASCAR is a perfect grounds and example on what voters each of the political parties need to go after for the election. A specific phrase known as the NASCAR dad began to pop up around 2003.
We not only made you work on that story, you had to work on another story for NBC Nightly News for Monday.
This was tough. Yeah, that's right. We're doing a story. You've heard a lot about soccer moms. Now there's talk in politics about NASCAR dads. Politicians look at 200,000 people here that we know are intensely loyal, and they wonder, boy, I wonder if they'll be loyal to me.
Coined by a Democratic pollster and strategist, it became synonymous with a key voting demographic: working class, middle-aged white men. A swing voting group. And while not being a weekly NASCAR story and talking point from broadcast to broadcast, it showed off the overarching and massive reach that the organization had in pop culture at the time. This voter base had been just as important as the soccer mom base. Both have been instrumental in the presidential victories of candidates like George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. And it wasn't just lip service to NASCAR at the time for this term to be used either. Incumbent President George W. Bush attended the 2004 Daytona 500, and Democrat candidate Howard Dean's campaign was even in talks of sponsoring a Busch Series car in 2004. That was before this.
Michigan! And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House! Yeah!
Side note, can you imagine the memes that would have been made if this happened today? But back to the actual story at hand. NASCAR at the time had boasted a fan base of 75 million people. Very loosely as fans, but still 75 million fans. That was 25% of the US population at the time, roughly. It was impossible not to see something NASCAR related at the time. It was a perfect storm where NASCAR was thrown into the trending political lexicon. Like NASCAR's huge early 2000s boom, the phrase NASCAR dad began to fizzle out over time. Today, it's merely a timestamp to a bygone era in American history. But now I want to pass the topic on to you. Were you a NASCAR dad at the time? Did you know about the term NASCAR dad? And if so, what do you remember from that time about the phrase and about the sport? Let me know down in the comments below, and subscribe if you want to see more videos on NASCAR. And until next time, have a good one.